Yo, what's going on, everyone? Jeremy Long here, host of Levels. And we're coming to you live from downtown Las Vegas, right by Fremont Street, right off of Fremont Street here. Having some fun, and we got a great show. We've been teasing it for a couple weeks. We're going to do a deep dive into the International Boxing Hall of Fame ballots that were released to all the voters. We're going to kind of look at the men and women for the first time ever included on this list. Let me go around the table here, introduce real quick, as always, the Sportsnista, Cassandra, Cousineau, CC, what's happening?
Hey, good day. It's Friday Eve.
Hey, man. It's Nevada Day tomorrow. And if anyone who doesn't live in Nevada is watching this, you're kind of confused too, right? I have no idea what this day is. We celebrate Nevada. It's a great state.
Today, Nevada became a state in 1864, I believe it was. Right. It was actually October 31st.
Not only Sportsnista, also teacher.
That's because my kid has been studying geography this week. So.
Good, good. Well, we are also joined by the doctor himself, the venerable TC Martin. What's up, TC?
Good to be here, Jeremy Long and Sportsnista.
Hey.
Hey.
Man, we are going to have some fun. If you love boxing like we love boxing, this is a great show to tune into. Get your questions ready. 702-608-3259. You can join in the show at any time by giving us a call. But we're going to start with some breaking MMA news from earlier. Just came down the line just a little bit ago. The MMA gods are showering us with news. CC, what's happening?
There's a sprinkle happening. So earlier today, Conor McGregor had promised a couple of days ago that he was going to have a live announcement from Russia. And that announcement was that he's going to fight in Las Vegas on January 18th. No opponent yet. Dana White has responded saying, yep, we're targeting that date. Nothing is in stone just yet. So we will see.
Okay.
But, the promotion wants to have Conor back in the octagon. I mean, regardless of what he's doing.
Regardless of what people think about this guy, I love this guy.
He still moves the needle.
He sets up a press conference in Moscow. Just digging at one guy, Khabib. And then he turns it on his head and he says, I'm not even going to fight that guy. I'm going to fight somebody else. But you know what? I'm going to set up in your backyard and do this press conference.
Yeah, but you know why you can't fight that guy? Because that guy already whooped you. And he gets the big piece of chicken. He is the top of the food chain right now in your division.
Yeah.
So
he gets the big piece of chicken while he cashes the welfare checks. I'm telling you. They all belong to Conor McGregor. It's his world. They all just live in it. The other news, Nate Diaz. He's saying he's not going to be at UFC 244 next week. What's happening there?
Well, apparently he's been informed that he's had a tainted sample come back. Of course, he's using all of the four-letter words to describe how he feels about it.
He does that with regularity.
Yeah, I mean, his favorite being the F word, with 4 letters. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. I remember a few years ago, Nick Diaz actually was suspended for, I think it was a year, because he tested positive for weed. Now, Nate has had a lot of conversations, and he's been seen partaking in all kinds of CBD and THC-related products. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if he actually really knows what's in those products. Because the UFC is not really going to suspend you for weed, not anymore. Anyway, especially if your name is Nate Diaz, because they know who you are and how you get down. So he's saying that he did not do anything illegal. In fact, Jorge Masvidal has said, hey, you're not the BAMF, I'm the BAMF, but you are not dirty. I'll fight you no matter what. So that fight could still happen, even though he said he's off the card. You
never know with Nate Diaz. It's always a circus, always a show. He's an exciting guy. He keeps us on our toes. Very quickly as we move through it, Paige Van Zandt goes on Instagram. And she says, hey, you know what? I'll fight anyone. And the strawweight or flyweight roster tags every single woman on the UFC relevant fighter on the UFC roster, except for the one fighter who has been calling her out for months, and that is Macy Barber. What's going on there? Is Paige Van Zandt scared of this young lady?
Yeah, she saw those elbows and the fact that she scored a standing TKO last week. Wow. But here's the ridiculous part. Macy Barber is going to be a threat. She's going to be a problem. She's got a lot of talent. But why is she calling out the gal who's not even in the top 10? Van Zandt is like, what, 19, 20? And she's not even active right now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense.
It's kind of weird from both camps.
It is very weird. And for Paige to say, basically she doesn't like her. Well, isn't that why you fight people? Because you don't like
You're
them?
in the hurt business, not the like business.
Like, when's the last time? Like, I'm gonna fight my friend. Like, we're just,
And then their managers or Paige's managers make it into a popularity contest. They're not going to grant her this fight because she didn't go about it the right way. She's not being respectful. What?
Yeah, but
we're fighting.
Right. It's but you got to respect.
Okay, whatever, man. It looks weird from both angles. And then I'm sure, TC, you heard about this, but the WBC strips Lomachenko of his actual WBC title and gives him that wonderful honorary title of franchise champion. You remember the one that gave Canelo for a middleweight a little while back. And they name Devon Haney the full champion. TC, what's the mindset the WBC making this guy franchise, stripping him of a title and giving him a honorary title?
Because they know that Bob Arum does not want to fight Devon Haney right away. There's bigger fights or better fights that'll be viewed better with Lomachenko in them, like Lopez and a couple other guys. And Haney, he doesn't have the respect, he doesn't have the cachet really to get in the ring with Lomachenko. So in order for them to strip Lomachenko, they'll say, well, we'll give you this franchise tag belt, that type of thing. And like you said, we've seen it before, and we just saw it about a month or so ago with Charlo. The same thing happened with Charlo as well, too. So this is a new thing. It's avant-garde now where we can have these franchise belt if we don't have to do a mandatory. So it's pretty silly. And again, as we're familiar with this in boxing, and the belts are just a bunch of alphabet soup that we really don't pay attention to. Yeah, and it's wild. And especially when these organizations, a lot of people don't realize that, they tax the fighters. The fighters actually have to pay all of these fees and to pay, to get that belt and everything. And some fighters say, I don't need to do that. Right. And we're seeing more and more of that as well, too. So again, I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. We all knew who, the best pound for pound fighter in the world is, and Lomachenko's right there. Yeah.
Didn't Floyd do that at some time late in his career as well?
He was one too.
A lot of them do that. Yes. They win the titles and they'll drop it because I think the fees on some of these are $400,000.
Or they'll move up in weight and they'll give up the belt, or they'll take a bigger money fight instead of fighting the mandatory number one contender. So those are the reasons why it happens.
There you go. So that's some weird news. It's been a weird news.
Devon Haney, so he becomes kind of like this interim, golden child.
No, he's the full.
He went from interim to
he went from interim to now he's the full champion.
So he gets the spirit stick. I mean, he played along, but Devon Haney is legit, and he's going to have to be reckoned with in this division if he stays at this weight or not. He is going to earn that championship at some point in 2020.
I like Haney, but he really hasn't been tested, and the knock on him is we don't know if he has the knockout power because we haven't seen him knock anybody out. So, and again, I think a lot of people know that if he does fight Lomachenko, it's probably going to be a one-sided fight like we've seen with a lot of Lomachenko opponents, more than likely. Just because Haney, he's a nice fighter, but he's not that complete fighter that really wows people.
He's 20 years old.
No, he's young, exactly, and that's part of the reason too. He still needs to develop.
He still smells like
you don't want to throw him to the wolves just yet, man. And Lomachenko is a big wolf to get in the ring with. So we're going to start our look into these ballots that were released at the beginning of October. People are out voting now. Do you get a vote, TC?
I do not get a vote. You've
been covering this sport for a long time.
Yeah, I have been. But
about time to get this man a vote.
That's funny. I actually got a ballot like 3 years ago. I don't know how I got a ballot, but I actually got one. But I don't know if it was a mistake or whatever.
That makes a great case. I don't know how I got this.
It's true. It's true. But, for people that don't know, it's for the boxing writers of America. They're the ones that vote. And if you are a previous inductee into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, then you get a vote. Right. So, and then they have these honorary distinguished people that are throughout the world, and they're the ones that get to vote pretty much. So even though we cover the sport on a regular basis, if we're not part of the Boxing Writers Association,
the Boxing Illuminati,
you gotta pay your dues.
Boxing Illuminati.
They're just prejudiced against radio and TV guys. That's it.
That's it.
Have you ever met a happy news writer? I've never been. Media, my entire adult life.
Like a couple, you know.
You're the exception. You're kind of nice.
There's a reason why these guys just put their head down behind their keyboard. Yeah,
so grumpy.
I mean, you start sniffing keyboards on the regular. See how you. But TC, you also are the executive director and founder of the Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame as well, and so we're glad you're here because you get to kind of tell us some of the inside baseball of how these nominations work and why some people don't appear on ballots.
Right. Yeah, again,
absolutely.
Yeah, and just like the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I mean, they have their people that make their nominations, and again, for most of these, whether they're Major League Baseball Hall of Fames, professional, whether they're city Hall of Fames or whatever they are, specific sports Hall of Fames. Usually, everyone has a committee, and they vote diligently, and you want people to do the right thing, and for the most part, they do take it upon themselves to represent your sport or your city or whatever that is. And I think, like for us in Sacramento, we have a pretty distinguished, group that are, past inductees that make up of it. We also have a media contingent as well, too. We take it very, very seriously. And it's a lot of fun. And that's something I'm very proud of, aside from my radio stuff in my 8th year of founding this and being the executive director. And we've got kind of a who's who, who's in our Hall of Fame from everything from, basketball, football, baseball to, Olympic gold medalists. So it's a pretty cool thing. So I get really attracted to Hall of Fame talk because I know what it takes to put the work in and to also honor these people that have made this
a lot
career.
of pressure. It's not just picking names. I mean, there's serious discussions that go with everyone.
And that's the way it is with the International Boxing Hall of Fame as well, too. I think for the most part, they've done a very good job. And I've followed it very, very closely, and 4 of my very close friends in the sport have been inducted over the last couple of years. So I really like it. I enjoy it.
Very nice. And a couple of big changes this year. They announced, the International Boxing Hall of Fame announced the modern era retirement requirement. There you go. Words. They dropped it from 5 years to 3 years. So you don't have to wait the mandatory 5 years as long as you were retired. Now they've dropped it down to 3 years, and of course, for the first time, women are being voted on.
Hey, ladies,
trailblazers and modern era inductees. All the ladies on the ballot, no trailblazers on this particular ballot, the first year, but a lot of names that you'll probably be familiar with if you follow boxing. Some of them I had to look up. I honestly had no idea.
Put Christy Martin in there as a trailblazer.
She is a trailblazer.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I'll give you a little trivia. If people are here in Las Vegas may remember this, but I actually managed one of the very first female fighters back in that time when Christy Martin was there, actually going back to the early to mid-'90s. Her name was Helga Rizoy. She was a world kickboxing champion from Norway. And at that point in time, she was having a problem getting fights because at that point in time, there were very few promoters that wanted to sign on. And I remember having these long discussions with Bob Arum and Don King at the time and Cedric Kushner. And there was one of those 3 gentlemen who I mentioned who was very receptive to it, and the other 2 were not at all.
Yep.
And finally, Bob Arum in Top Rank put her on cards, and we got a chance to travel. You can probably remember the old Tuesday night fights on USA.
Absolutely.
So we appeared on a couple of those things. And so she was one of the trailblazers too, except she basically retired after 11 fights. Her record was like 8-3, so she wouldn't be on this list. But that's when Christy Martin came into the picture, and Christy Martin was one of those trailblazers. And I think, she is going to get a lot of votes, and she's probably going to get in.
She should be first.
And I think you look at Laila Ali and you look at Christy Martin, for me, those are the 2 that really stand out, even though that all of the ladies on this list are very, very deserving.
It's a strong list.
It is. And you'll notice there are some people like Regina Halmick who's had over 60 fights, but a lot of people don't know her.
Yeah.
And then again, you'll have someone like Lucia Riker with only 17 fights.
Yeah.
And that's, it's kind of strange because for these ladies, especially back in the 90s, early 2000s, it was very hard to match them
and get them
fights.
Easy to come by.
No, not at all. So just picture how it was in, going 93, 94, 95 back in those days. Yeah, and that's the thing as well, too. So it's just like if you like Christy Martin, really, honestly, she didn't have any competition for that weight class because, she you know, she usually fought around 150, sometimes 160 pounds, and there wasn't a lot of women at that time. You had some smaller women that were fighting around 130, 140. Right. So it's very difficult to gauge this.
Right.
And I think that was one of the reasons too why the International Boxing Hall of Fame kind of waited so long. But now we're seeing more and more women that are coming up now. They're fighting, so they said, "Hey, I think we need to address this." And honestly,
they were in the Olympics as well.
Exactly, exactly. Over the last few Olympiads, so I think they've got this right with the nominees.
Absolutely, and I mean, Ann Wolfe is another name that jumps out, but I think that Christy has to be first. Laila Ali is probably the most talented, the best boxer on this list. But I need to see Christy go in there first.
I agree.
Yeah, her name should be called
and Layla's
first.
the most marketed, as we know, and we know that goes a long way as well too.
Right.
When you're
Absolutely.
crossing over and you're doing television commercials and you're doing television specials, but she can fight. But you know, on
Dancing with the Stars.
There you go. But
they want her to be there. They want her. They want the name to
Right.
have a seat at the table, and so definitely, she'll be there.
So let's start and look. Let's start with Laila. Okay, she's number one on the list here. Laila Ali, her career from 1999 to 2007, 24-0, 21 knockouts. She was a beast in the ring. Now, her criticism, and if you have criticism against Laila Ali, it was that she ducked some of the harder fighters, maybe Ann Wolfe, these kind of ladies coming up. They fought in the same time period. They had a fight they kind of had together, but it never really materialized later on in their careers. And after that, she kind of retired. You said it yourself, probably first ballot, probably one of the higher vote getters. Any knocks against her that would maybe drag her down a little bit outside of the initial criticism?
I think the initial knock with probably all of these fighters are that you can question the competition because there is not that deep of a variety of fighters for them to fight, especially very few of them are in the same weight class.
Yeah.
So that's why you never saw them match up against each other. And the weight
Christy Martin is the only one that's fought like almost everybody on this list.
Right.
She fought everybody.
I mean, John King was her promoter, so I think she's going to be out there. But
and she fought a lot of weak competition as well too. You got to remember, I was at many of those fights, and they were a joke. I mean, seeing her, just run through these ladies within one round.
Whooping on some soccer moms.
Yeah, exactly. But then again, women weren't training like they are nowadays. So when you talk about the different decades and different eras, and Christy Martin is definitely a throwback. We're talking the 90s.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
Absolutely.
So that's the knock, I think, when you're talking about the women.
And the difference between a 1990 and a 2000, 10 years made a world of difference with competition, and especially in women's boxing.
Yeah, not just level of competition. I think, TC, you must have seen this, in that there were top trainers who would not train these women. Yep. So they weren't even getting opportunities to get into the gym to actually increase their skills to improve. You look at somebody like Cecilia Brækhus, for instance, who tells a story about she had to change countries, sneaking out, the fire escape, trying to get trained. And so, I mean, when the women were allowed to box in the Olympics, I think that was a game changer because now you've got access to all the top trainers in the world. Right.
And it's funny you say that because when I was managing, I've said Helga Rizoi, I had Kenny Adams, who actually is on the nominee list as well, which I'm glad to see, who's trained 27 world champions. He actually trained my fighter, and he was ridiculed by a lot of people in the boxing public. Well, why are you training a woman? Yeah. And there are other people, like Eddie Mustafa Muhammad and other people that then they slowly but surely kind of got into it too. But in that time, the mid 90s, like you said, that was a big point. It was like, hey, if you're a promoter, you're going to promote women. You're a trainer of world champions, and you're going to train a woman. Wait a minute now. Yeah. So it's much more acceptable now. But that was a factor.
That is very true. Just the access to those kind of minds and stuff like that to take your game to the next level. You could fight wherever. I mean, from casino grounds to Caesar's Palace, whatever. But if you don't have the proper training and you don't have, and your opponent doesn't have any kind of training, right? You're going to get the sideshow and what people considered sideshow fights back in the day. So I'm glad we're making strides.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
So, I mean, I think agreed around the board, Laila Ali, no doubt about it. She's going to be in probably by a very wide margin. The next name on the list, Samia Anani, who I honestly had to look her up because I had not caught many Anani fights, but, reading up about her, definitely a beast in the ring from 96 to 2006. 10-year career, 25-3-1 with 10 knockouts. TC, you got to tell me about this one because I don't know.
She actually beat Christy Martin. Actually, she actually beat Christy, and it was a little bit later on that she beat Christy Martin. But again, she was just didn't have a major promoter. She took a lot of these type of fights that you never knew she was even fighting. I'm talking about backyard brawls and fighting in bars and that sort of thing. But she had a great record. But like a lot of these women, didn't have a lot of knockouts. But then again, you got to remember, a lot of these fights were only 5- and 6-round fights back in the day, and they were 2-minute rounds as well.
Right.
So the knockouts didn't come aplenty. That's why Laila Ali sticks out, because of, like you said, the 24-0 with 21 knockouts. Yeah. But with Inani, she only had 10 knockouts in her 25 fights. But again, she just didn't fight on a lot of top end cards. That's why most people didn't hear of her.
And there wasn't a whole lot of YouTube footage on her either.
Not a whole lot of YouTube. Would she get your vote? If you had a vote to give, would she get your vote?
No, she wouldn't get my vote.
Oh, why not?
No, I don't know. Again, level of competition and just probably the level of competition. Okay. Exactly. Yeah,
I got you. I got you.
Good fighter, but again, not that upper echelon in my opinion.
Hey, it's not a Hall of Fame if everybody gets in.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Not everyone can get into this. All right.
Does everyone get a participation trophy?
No.
I want one. All right, Regina Homage. I'd say Homage. 94 to 2007, 54-1, 16 KOs. Kind of the Christy Martin of Europe.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Absolutely, popularized women's boxing in Europe, where she spent most of her career. So just not too much time here in the U.S. But she did. I mean, 54-1. I mean,
she fought a lot of women who were considered up and comers, or even some established ones. She had probably, out of this list, has one of the higher quality of competition on her resume.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put her in on the first ballot. I have two in my head that are first ballot, and then what's good about having a list is that it might not be you this time, but then we get another year to talk about you and another year to get to know who you are.
Right.
She was a very good fighter, and she was kind of under the radar with people here in the United States. She's going to get a lot of votes for people in Europe because they remember her. And like you said, 54-1, only had 16 knockouts, but she was a flyweight as well too.
Yeah.
So sometimes, even with the men, those lower weight classes, they get disrespected a little bit. Yeah. But she fought one of the girls that fought my girl, Deli Gonzalez, back in the day, and she beat her. So I would consider her. I would really strongly consider her, but I don't think she's going to get a lot of votes here in the States.
One of the first females, too, reading up about it, one of the first females who actually was backed by a TV conglomerate who regularly aired her fights or whatever when they started seeing the talent she had, honestly helped push all that. And she's not the worst looking woman in the world.
That
so
helps.
It helps, to have all that right time, right place, right kind of champion, right look, there you go. So I don't know if she gets in. That's a lot of U.S. votes right there you're missing out on. I think there's 250 voters, maybe?
It is the International Boxing Hall
about
of Fame.
400 right now.
Oh, is it 400?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because they incorporate
way off.
Yeah, they incorporate the past.
It's exactly that, just double.
So, we'll see, but I believe she's there with, if Christy Martin's in, you got to bring Regina in. If not the first ballot, then secondly, the next year.
2021.
One that is arguably more popular in MMA, her second career, than her first career in boxing. Holly Holm is, from 2002 to 2013, 33-2-3 with 9 knockouts. And first ballot right there, Holly Holm. If I think women's champion, I think Holly Holm. She was the first one that really came out around that time period. A lot of hype behind her. 23 years old, KOing people. It hurts that she fought on nothing but casino grounds. But you can't help. You can't really help that. I mean, you can't control where you're allowed to fight and things like that. But she did the most with what she had, man. 33 wins. Out of what?
Very marketable person, as we know from her UFC days. And I mentioned Kenny Adams before. He was her first trainer.
Right.
So he trained her back in the day, and he just had nothing but glowing things to say about her as well, too. And again, she fought in that era where it was a little bit more defined. Women's boxing was the weight classes were better than this and that. So it'd be interesting to see if she would fought in the Christy Martin time or not. But Holly Holm gets a lot of credit. I can't disagree with you at all, Jeremy. I mean, she could get in, no doubt about it.
Yeah. She could definitely get in. I would tear the club up though if she gets in and Laila doesn't or Christy doesn't, because Holly's top of mind right now. She's still active. She has a formidable resume, and she could conceivably jump over some people who should actually be there.
Yeah. Do you think in a situation like this, the popularity and the success she's had in her second career would actually help her cause for the first career? Even if people don't come out and say, yeah, I'm voting for her because of what she did to Ronda Rousey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's going to resonate in a lot of people's mind. However, though, you got to remember, too, that the people that are voting are really boxing purists. Yeah. And if you're a boxing purist, like a lot of these people who vote and are in the past inductees, they don't really care for MMA. They
don't care for it at all.
Right, exactly. Right. And I'm kind of one of those guys myself,
Get off my lawn.
But
okay.
No, I mean, Holly Holm was a great fighter. Again, she's more of a tactical fighter,
right?
Instead of a knockout artist.
Yeah.
Hence the 9 knockouts in the 38 professional fights that she had.
Yep.
And that people look at that as well too.
Do you think that the voting is changing in that? So there's some people kind of aged out, in the pool, and there's younger voters coming in who think differently about knockouts. And does that mean as much as it used to?
I think it probably does, but I still think that you're looking at an older base of voters still. It's still prominently, older people.
Yeah. Because you talk about the skill set, right? These are writers.
Exactly. I mean, let's be honest. It's 45 and 50 plus for most of these guys. And again, too, the past inductees get to vote. Yeah. And all of those guys are older as well, too, guys and girls. So
knockouts are still knockouts. Home runs are still home runs.
Because I look at fighters who are in kind of the lighter weight classes, and you're not going to see as many knockouts there, but you're going to, look at Lomachenko. Incredibly skilled, right? But his knockouts are not the same as you would see Deontay Wilder. These smaller fighters, these lighter fighters, you don't see it. And so I see that it has value, but it just shouldn't carry as much weight as it does.
Yeah. And I think the mystique with heavyweights is that one punch knockout power. Where Lomachenko builds up over a period of time.
All that volume.
The volumes of punches, he has it. If he can catch you clean, he'll knock your socks off. But
look at Manny Pacquiao early in his career when he was fighting, at bantamweight and featherweight. He was knocking everybody out.
Yeah.
So,
Floyd Mayweather early in his career.
There's a lot of fighters, even going back even before them, that had some tremendous, knockout power. Michael Carbajal, Chiquita Gonzalez, guys like that. Yeah. So.
Next name on the list, Susie Kintakian. Probably totally messed up her last name. Sorry. From 2005. I think you got it. Kintakian, I did get it. You know what? I take that back. 2005 to 2016, 36-2 with 1 no contest, 17 KOs. Now, there you go. There's somebody with some knockouts on their resume. 2-time flyweight world champion. She even has a belt named after her. Come on, man. So if you have a belt named after you, something going right for you. You got to be Hall of Fame, right? Yeah, right. If they name a Jeremy Long belt, I got to be in Hall of Fame. Because otherwise people look around going, who?
What's that belt look like? What's that Jeremy Long belt look like? That's what I want to know.
It's real Gucci.
It's real Gucci. It's got alcohol on it.
It's real wide, too, isn't it?
Real wide. Okay, cut off his camera.
Yeah, sorry about that. He's my friend. Okay?
Yeah, Susie, there we go. Susie's one of these a newer age fighter, came up after the 2000 mark. That kind of separates the two distinctions there. Impressive record. Like I said, 2-time flyweight champion. Not a whole lot of exposure here in the U.S. A lot of fights outside the U.S. So what do you think off the top of your head?
I think it works against her. Any modern fighter works against you when you're talking about Hall of Fames. Right. People want to look at the full body of work, and they need some time to be separated, and that's part of this discussion that we can have as well too. With now, it used to be 5 years, and now it's 3 years, and that sort of thing. So I mean, she's just fresh out of the ring a couple years ago, and I think that works against her.
She just made the cutoff at 3 years, and so. But I took a look. I did find some tape on her, and watch her footwork. Like she's
skilled,
right, like incredibly skilled, super fast,
like a little Pacquiao.
Yeah, right. She seriously, and the power that she generated in close proximity was really impressive. So, even if she doesn't get in, take a look at what she was able to do.
Then, of course, we moved to Christy Martin. I think all were on the table here, first ballot. Christy Martin's in.
Because she's one of the very first. So automatically that resonates with everybody, and remembering what she did. If you did get a chance to watch her fight and the way she would just clean up people, I think that just resonates big time.
1989 to 2012, so a good long career. 49-7-3. Not the shiny record that a lot of these ladies have,
but those losses
were all legit competition,
and they came much later in her career when they were throwing like everybody 40. Out. Early on, she didn't. I don't think she lost for her first 25 or 30 fights.
First bit.
What's interesting about
31
Christy,
knockouts too. Knock your mom out.
I mean, and she is knocking my mama off my shoulder. We'll get to that.
Right.
Lately, though, she's been very acerbic about modern day fighters, in particular Claressa Shields. Has not had a lot of nice things to say about Claressa, and I don't know if some of that is just the spirit of competition, but that's who Christy was when she was fighting. She wasn't going to hold back. I mean, she was groomed by Don King, so that was going to happen. But yeah, if there's a knock on Christy, it's going to be how she's behaved outside of the ring, and if she's been rubbing people the wrong way, she's gonna get in. But I could see that as being the only real knock, is if these writers actually still like her as a person.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see if she gets in under a trailblazer or a modern boxer. I think that would be would be the real thing. Lucia Riker, one of the baddest women on the planet,
no question.
17-0, 14 KOs from 96 to 2004. I saw her last year or the year before at the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
She looked like she could still knock a lot of people out, including myself.
She can still go.
I mentioned something about it. She was like, "You want to go?" I was like, "No, ma'am. No, I'm going to step on this side of the line. I'll just take an autograph." But very, very nice lady. But yeah, one time the most dangerous woman on the planet. Of course, she has a record in other sports as well. So I think no doubt about it. Is she first round though? First ballot.
She's part of the discussion. I think she's right there with Laila Ali and Christy Martin, and is right there. She's not right there with them. She's a notch below, but
I don't think she's quite a no-brainer. But I think she'll get in eventually. Is it going to be on this ballot? Giselle Salandi from 2000-2008, 16-0 with 6 KOs, undefeated unified light middleweight world champion. She held the WBA and WBC as well as a lot of other alphabet titles from 2006 until her death at a very young age in 2009.
One of the few unified champions.
Yeah. And really, I mean, she died while she was still active. Yeah. We don't know what that next half of that career was going to look like, but started out the first 8 years. I mean, 16-0, 6 KOs. First ballot?
No,
probably not.
Yeah, no.
I don't think.
I think this is part of a sentimental, person to put on the ballot because she died, she died in 2009 and that sort of thing. But her record was great. Yeah. Again, competition not so sure about again, but a little bit too recent.
Yeah, I don't.
And not enough fights.
I don't. If there's a name on this list that I don't think makes it eventually, it's probably hers. Yeah. Rest in peace. Mary Jo Sanders, come on. 2003 to 2008. In 5 years, 25-1-1 with 8 knockouts. At one time, she was the one that nobody wanted to fight. Her only loss comes to Holly Holm.
Right.
Nobody wanted to fight her. Even the legit ladies didn't want to fight her. And she did that in 5 years. She walked off too.
Devastating.
She got a loss to Holly Holm, and it wasn't like a horrible loss. And she dropped the mic.
It was a competitive fight. Yeah.
I think she was frustrated too with the business of boxing, as well too. I think that had a lot to do with her walking away. But no, she was one bad girl.
Whew, she gonna get some votes. I don't know 80%, but she probably.
Well, I think we'll see her in there eventually.
Yeah,
if it's not
I think no doubt. Next, Laura Serrano, 1994, 2007. Another bad lady. She was also a lawyer, kick butt lawyer too. 17-4-2, 6 knockouts.
Did you say a kick butt lawyer?
She was a kick butt lawyer, man. She was the one that challenged the rule in Mexico. She was set up on a card. They took her off the pay-per-view card because of a 1947 law that said women couldn't fight. She went in there and she challenged it, got it struck down. That's why women could fight in Mexico now.
How about that?
There you go. So she might get in on Trailblazers just on that. Just on that alone, because her boxing was sporadic. Even I couldn't even find her last 2 fights. No. She had another couple fights, but they were somewhere deep in Mexico. Her debut was against Christy Martin.
Yes.
And she goes out there and fights her to a draw. Her next fight, she KOs Deidre Gogarty, who was top of the line too, and her second pro fight. So I mean, come on,
she wasn't scared.
I don't think she gets in on the modern wing. I think she's a trailblazer. I think of it, but she'll probably.
I just don't think that she has enough fights, though. I mean, when people are gonna look at records and they're gonna look at someone getting in the Hall of Fame. You have to have more than 23, 25 fights.
You think so?
I do.
I do. For the ladies in boxing,
I think so too. Because you're always going to compare to the men, and then when unless you're like a Laila Ali, who is just so mega popular, and she's 24-0 with 21 knockouts, but she's so popular in the marketing game, that's going to resonate with people too. But for people like Serrano, she was so under the radar. Yeah. I mean, after she fought Christy Martin, really people didn't hear about her after that. So I think that's a big part of this as well too, because they have to be able to put a name to the face and some file footage to go with that, or at least some recent memory that, hey, I saw her fight. And I don't think you have that with her, or even the next one with Torres on the list as well.
Yeah, Anna Marie Torres, you can lump right in there.
Yeah, so I think that is a big part when we're talking about getting the Hall of Fame, especially a new category with women like this. I think it's, the bar is going to be set pretty high.
Yeah, you actually brought up a really good point in that the women actually going to have a tougher time in their analysis because they're going to be compared to the men. And so because it's going to be more difficult to find actual tape, you're going to need tape, not video footage. You're going to need tape for some of these women. So they're going to be more heavily scrutinized because of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like we mentioned, Anna Marie Torres, 99 through 2012, 28-3-3, 16 knockouts, 2-time WBC super flyweight champ. Just name a fight she fought.
It's hard. Yeah,
it's really hard.
She beat a lot of women, but the competition wasn't great as well too.
Yeah, the last one is probably my other lock, and that's Ann Wolfe from 98 to 2006. Roughly around the same time Laila Ali was there. 24-1, won no contest, 16 knockouts. She held world titles in 3 different weight classes at the same time, regarded by many as one of the greatest female boxers of all time. Only lost to, as I put this on there, only lost to Beaumont resident Valerie Mahfoud back in the day. Valerie now lives in near my hometown in Groves, Texas. Multiple championships, a bad woman.
Yeah.
What do you think, TC?
Here, Ann Wolfe was probably the baddest woman on the planet. Okay, but there's some knocks against Ann Wolfe too. The way she carried herself in the ring, out of the ring, always dropping F-bombs. She later became a trainer with James Kirkland and other fighters as well too. And she was never perceived as going along with things. And if you ever sat with Ann Wolfe or you ever talked to her, and HBO Real Sports did a great story about her a decade or two ago, and it was really great about Ann Wolfe. But again, I think that's the knock on her, but I think people will remember for the rest of their life the one-punch knockout that she had. What was that? Vante? What was the girl's name?
The lady's name.
But anyway, you Google it, go YouTube. Phenomenal.
Incredible knockout.
The one-punch knockout. People
just walked off.
They remember that. They're going to remember that
People remember that. Absolutely.
So if we're talking about one of the greatest female boxers, not artistically pleasing, but just bell rings, she's going to come charge at you, and most of these women are going to run, and they did run away and hide. You're afraid of Ann Wolf. Okay, you're afraid of Ann Wolf.
Who's afraid of Ann Wolf?
In the squared circle, you're afraid of her. Out at a backyard barbecue or at a gas station, you're afraid of Ann Wolf.
Who's afraid of Ann Wolf?
Hey, you cut me off on the highway. Never mind.
Exactly.
Never mind.
And I still remember those scenes with her training James Kirkland about, come on, carry the tires.
Absolutely. James Kirkland, I know he caught some heat for getting her on his team and everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, see her out there.
She was good for him.
But I think she was too. She was tough on the dude. She was tough on the dude. Very, very good. So that takes care of the ladies' ballot.
Hey, ladies, the good news is there is an International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame, and so these women will be getting their just due one way or another.
It'll be fun to see how that all turns out, and they'll announce that at the beginning of December. 702-608-3259. We're here with T.C. Martin, the doctor of thugonomics. We're going to turn our attention.
He said thugonomics, y'all. I don't know what it sounded like to you, but it sounded like...
I thought he said funk, which I was like, that's true.
Thug.
It was a different consonant that I heard.
Enunciate. Sorry. Thug. There we go. Thugs don't enunciate. Get out of here. All right, let's take a look at the men's ballot is really very, very interesting. You got some very well-known names, but you have some borderline characters. Let's start with Timothy Bradley. 2004 to 2016, 33-2 and 113 knockouts. Not a big puncher, but a guy whose only losses were to Manny Pacquiao. I know you spent a lot of time around Timothy Bradley, right?
I loved him. Him as a person, and now he's doing a pretty good job with ESPN in his broadcasting career.
Yep.
But for right now, Tim's not a Hall of Famer in my book. I mean, he just maybe down the road, and it's like a lot of these guys. It's just it's timing is everything. I mean, after the ballots kind of dwindle down a little bit. And Tim's biggest knockout, we always talk about it when he had big fights. Well, Tim's not going to win this fight. Why? Doesn't have the knockout power.
Right.
And that goes a long way. It does go a long way. When we're talking about boxing, people want knockouts. They like knockouts. And when you go back in history, you don't see a lot of the guys that had a lot of wins and less knockouts getting in, especially right away.
Not right away. He needs to marinate a little bit.
Yeah, he does. And again, this is part of the problem that I have a little bit too when you're talking about the 5 years coming down to 3 years here, because now we're getting guys that are a little bit too recent in our minds. And what is the mindset that we always have after a boxer retires?
Is now retired. For real.
That's good too. But here's where I'm going with this. And excuse me if I'm getting off
go ahead.
A little bit here. But with baseball and football and basketball, you have that marination time, like you said, the 5 years. Okay. Boxing is totally different, because how do you normally always end your career? On a loss.
Yeah.
And you always fade away.
Yeah.
Bernard Hopkins, we're going to get to him. Okay. But do we remember how Bernard Hopkins went out?
Oh, boy.
It was downright embarrassing.
It was embarrassing.
Exactly.
Through
and
the
I
ropes,
think, and we need time to let that go away.
Yeah.
Because we're going to remember Bernard Hopkins for his 20 title defenses and the greatness that he had. But his last couple years, it was downright ugly.
Bad.
Yeah.
Okay. And Timothy Bradley was that kind of the same way. And I think by us going, okay, now let's shorten it to 3 years, we're going to get a lot of that in our mind, because we have it in general with boxing anyway. And that's sad. But that's the reality.
It's the reality, man.
Your three biggest fights are against Manny Pacquiao, and you lose two of them decidedly. And a lot of people think you lost the one that you actually did win.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're hanging your hat on. I don't think he gets in right now.
No.
I think he gets in later on. But like you said, after time, I think time is more favorable.
Absolutely
to guys
correct.
Like Timothy.
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
Jorge Arce. 1996 to 2014. Arse. All right, depending on what time or what country you're from.
With Conor McGregor here for a second.
Yeah. 64, 8-2, 49 KOs. Definitely a throwback to those tough South American fighters who fought everyone. Bring them, I'll fight them 2 and 3 at a time. That's how you get so many fights like that. 49 KOs, multi-time world champion, second boxer from Mexico to win world titles in 4 different weight divisions after Eric Morales, who only achieved that 2 months before. So good time to be a South American fighter. A Mexican fighter. Other than that, though, I mean, I guess I wasn't a fan, or I missed this guy somewhere in there.
Well, he didn't have a lot of fights, hardly any fights in the United States.
In the U.S., right? Most of them are in Mexico.
And the thing about it is, he's going to get compared a lot to Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah.
Okay, these two guys, and, you know,
And
we're
he
all
wasn't
sitting here,
Marquez.
we're going to take Marquez over him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But he was a great fighter. He was a tremendous fighter. And everything that you just said, you gave his glowing stats,
Right.
49 knockouts, 64 victories. But again, you know, he'll get votes in Mexico. He'll get a lot of votes in Mexico, but in Europe, I don't think so. And here, it's probably going to be the same thing because he didn't fight enough fights here. He didn't fight any big fights in the United States.
Overshadowed a lot by his Mexican counterparts.
Right. Right.
Eric Morales, like you said, Juan Manuel.
Right.
These guys, you know, tough time to be in there. I don't know. I think he's borderline.
Yeah, that's down the road.
Vuyani Bungu.
Yeah.
Vuyani Bungu. Yeah, that's the actual name. 1987 to 2005, 39-5, 19 KOs. South American. Unfortunately, I think this guy is best known for his loss against Prince.
Nassim Mohammed.
Prince Nassim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too bad because
and,
after he was a great fighter.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic fighter.
Yeah.
And then Hamed just kind of, put him by the wayside. But then he came back and he won some fights after that.
Yeah.
But because that loss was on the world stage, he's probably not going to get it right now. But let's not be mistaken. This guy was a tremendous fighter, one of the best.
That's how he ends up even on the ballot, is that people remember how great of a fighter he was.
Yeah.
Held the junior
fast.
featherweight title from 94 to 99.
Very fast.
And then the featherweight title from 2004 to 2005. So probably not this ballot.
I was
later
surprised
down
to
the
see
road.
him. I was surprised actually to see him on the ballot.
Joel Casamayor, the Cuban, defected over here to the U.S. after the Olympics, or right before the Olympics. From 96 to 2011, 38-6-1, 22 knockouts. What do you think about Joel?
I like him a lot. Las Vegas native now too. He's been living here for
Oh,
a
really?
little. Yeah,
Did not know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So he's and he's training fighters as well now too. But he was a great fighter. Back in the day, there's
Wars, man.
Yeah, he
War.
had a lot of wars, and people remember those wars. Again, Hall of Fame worthy at this point in time. No, down the road, definitely. But again, he's gonna get some votes, especially from overseas.
I like it, man.
Yeah,
I love
not first ballot, but like he deserves to be on the list.
Yeah, he's a legit nominee.
tough,
no
tough
doubt.
Cuban fighter,
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
And then his work in the Olympics,
Yes.
something else. The next name is kind of one of those names that I think kind of got mystified over the years because of his great fights with Jose Luis Castillo, but Diego Corrales, and of course Michelle Corrales Lewis is the president of the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame and everything. So the Corrales name has a lot of carry here in Las Vegas. Fought from 96 to 2007, 40-5 with 33 knockouts. Man, he was a puncher, and he got into some absolute wars. Does his early death and everything, is that one of these things that kind of mystifies how good he was or amplifies it? Or how do you see Diego when you're looking at stuff like
Diego is close to my heart because he is from Sacramento, from my hometown, and he is on our ballot on the Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame, and he has
this year as well?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
He has an excellent chance to get in our class coming up here in 2020 in January.
Yep.
So, and Diego, he gets a lot of votes.
Yeah.
This guy was a warrior, like you said, and I think is tragic the way he died, and people here in Las Vegas may remember. And you go back to, was it 2007, and he was on his motorcycle there and flying on Durango.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about Earl Spence, and I know you guys have talked about that the last couple of weeks and everything. It was just, very unfortunate incident with that. But people still remember the great fight, like you mentioned. It was probably, you could argue, the greatest fight of all time.
Yeah.
Of what he accomplished. But again, he was a 3-time world champion as well too, 4-time world champion. So I think that it's been long enough from the death, and it wasn't really a controversial death. I think people viewed his death as being a very sad because he still had some gas left in the tank.
Yeah.
I don't think Diego gets in on this ballot right away, but he's going to garner some votes, and down the road he will be a boxing Hall of Famer.
He's getting in, and he'll be a name that I won't be surprised if we hear it.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a whole lot of sentimental value. People who just been waiting to vote for him.
Yeah.
it's not likely he gets in the first time, but I won't be surprised.
But you talk about, we go back to it, knockouts. You said the record of 40-5, 33 knockouts.
Man.
And those were knockouts.
Yeah, legit.
You know
Legit
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
Legit.
he was in a division where he's fighting these wars. You know, you talked about Castillo.
Almost every fight in that division during that time period was
during that
a
era,
war.
yes.
There were no cupcakes back in those days.
Absolutely not, man. And of course, his 2005 fight was fight of the year. Crazy, man. He'll eventually get in. Carl Froch, the great British champion, 2002 to 2014 was his career. 33-2, 24 KOs. Another guy who loved to punch and brawl and get in there. Really, his only blemishes against the great Andre Ward. Right. You know, I mean, who pieced him up.
A lot of people lost to Andre
towards the
Ward.
end of his career. Again, you know, last couple fights.
Hey, a lot of people lost Andre Ward. No shame in that, right there. You know, held multiple super middleweight world championships, WBC title twice from 2008 to 2011. At a time, one of those guys that a lot of people quietly shied away from. He was I believe, a two-time fighter of the year, maybe one time in 2012. But one of those guys. Does he get in on this ballot?
He doesn't for me. Again, he's another one of these guys that it's too fresh, it's too recent. Again, we're going to honor Hall of Famers. We're going to think the older guys first. And again, with Froch, what always comes to my mind is he was great knocking out these guys that we haven't heard of. You know, going back in Montreal or in England and all that sort of thing.
Very true.
But then when he fought top level. Top contenders, especially here in the States.
Not a whole lot of knockouts.
It was real difficult. I mean, he was wrecking tomato cans.
Yes.
So, but I wonder though, TC, if the European voting bloc, if that's their guy.
I don't think so right now.
Is that enough to
I don't think right
put
now.
him in?
Down the road, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he was immensely popular fighter. But then again, he wasn't one of these guys that. You know, like a lot of the Mexican fighters who have 60, 70, and 80 fights, or even like the Filipino fighters like Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, only 35 fights.
Exactly, right.
It's light even for these days. I mean, Timothy Bradley, too.
And you know what? One of these things, too, that no one talks about with him, he was one of these guys who was pretty careful about picking his opponents. Talk about Floyd Mayweather. He was the same way. And to me, you don't get points for that.
I mean, you got a guy who didn't pick opponents. Bernard Hopkins, B-Hop, 88 to 2016, basically the entire length of time boxing's been legal in the States. 55, 8-2, 32 KOs. Like you said earlier, the memories of how he ended his career are still very fresh. Being tossed out of the ring and stuff like that, being reduced to nothing. Is he first ballot, though? Are people going to go, yeah, but that's B-Hop?
Yeah, he gets away with it because of everything that he accomplished before that time. And he's still relevant as Oscar De La Hoya's right-hand man with Golden Boy Promotions. We see him all the time. He's and he's always come across as a good guy. And here's a guy, if you know his past, and I got a chance to meet him when he first turned pro, and he was totally a different person now than he was when he first started fighting, because he was in prison. And when he got out of prison, he learned his lessons. He was very vocal and open about that. And I'm sure we've all talked to Bernard Hopkins on several occasions.
Yes.
He's just a great guy.
Wonderful
He's a great interview. Don't you love talking with him?
I love it because I can just go, there you go.
There you go. And you plan a 10, 15-minute interview and you're talking to him for 40, so, which is fine in our business. Yeah. But, I think that people are going to remember the 20 title defenses and how he just dismantled so many of those opponents. And, there's to me, this is a no question, no brainer. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. If we're, going to the window and we're betting, we're laying 1,000 to 1. Bernard Hopkins is
all the money. All the money on B-Hop.
Sergio Martinez, the great Argentinian champion from 97 to 2014, 51, 3-2, 28 knockouts. I think just personal, I think Sergio's biggest drawback is that he peaked at the end, near the end of his career at a time, and nobody wanted to fight him because of that freaking knockoff, a knockout, a walk-off knockout of Paul Williams, that great left hand he threw, and just
a body snatcher.
If not the greatest knockout of all time, one of them. And he was scary for a while there. His peak was at, like I said, at the end. What do you think about Sergio?
I like Sergio. I'm not ready to put him in the Hall of Fame right away. And for me, this is a style type of thing. I just never cared for his style. And I don't think that his style really resonated a lot with a lot of the old old-time fighters as well. You know, always with the hands down, always moving in and
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You know, he was never like come forward type of guy. He taunted you. He did things like that. And styles make fights, as we know, but styles also make reputations. And, you know, he has a totally different style than, say, a guy like Canelo Alvarez, who is going to be, you know, coming forward or is just a succinct counter puncher. And again, we talk about Nassim Hamed, okay? He had that kind of a goofy style that didn't win fans over.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
Sergio was great, like you said. I'll give him credit. But for me, he was not my type of style.
I wrote that down because I'm gonna quote you later on that. Styles make fights. Styles also make reputations.
But do you agree with that? That's my thought.
I think it's dope. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I like it. Of course.
Do I get endorsement for that?
Yeah,
I want a
I'm
nickel
going
every
to
time I hear
credit
that.
you, and Juan is going to give you 14 cents.
I love Juan.
The great Mexican champion Juan Manuel Marquez,
Come on,
93
man.
to 2014, 56-7-1, 40 freaking knockouts. Yep, he is the third Mexican fighter after Eric Morales and the aforementioned Jorge Arce to become a world champion in 4 different weight classes. And of course, that freaking walk-off knockout of Manny Pacquiao. That's a whole generation of young people that know Juan Manuel Marquez because of that meme.
Yes, lay him out.
Manny Pacquiao just seemingly dead on the canvas. I say he gets in this year. I look at this list and I'm like, I think Juan Manuel Marquez is in this year. What do you think?
He's one of the 3 guys that I look at like, yeah, he should be in here. But do we look at Juan Manuel Marquez for maybe some other stuff as well too? Some
Maybe so.
bodily fluids.
Like, his
and
choice of beverages.
Not only that, but remember, this guy was accused about hand wraps and that kind of stuff.
Is he dirty? I don't.
But that people remember that.
People do remember.
People who vote remember that.
Yeah, the writers are going to remember it because they were the ones reporting on this. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, might be a factor.
Yeah.
It shouldn't
might.
take away from what he accomplished because, like you said, one of the greatest fighters of all time. One of the definitely, in my opinion, probably right underneath Julio Cesar Chavez, one of the greatest, probably the next greatest.
Maybe
Mexican
one of those
fighter.
guys that benefits in the long run with time.
But I would not have a problem with him getting in right away. And I think he's right there on the fringe. He could get in.
I think he's a fringe guy. I think
He'll be one if he doesn't get in. That would probably be the biggest argument. That'll be the one that people will fight about is that he wasn't in.
Shane Mosley. Sugar Shane Mosley. 93 to 2016. 49-10-1. 1 no contest. 41 knockouts. At one time, the pound for pound best boxer in the world. Sugar Shane, is he in this year?
I say yes. I say
What do you think,
B-Hop and Shane are in.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be, right? Because for me, Hopkins is 1, and 2 it's got to be Shane. How could you be, the former pound for pound #1 guy and not get in on the first bout? Even though it's soon. It's soon for him. I mean,
this guy, he was a part of Murderer's Row.
Lots of moments.
Just a couple of years ago with those great divisions that we had here when boxing was really fun.
Well, the thing about it is he fought everybody.
He fought
and
everybody.
And that's what we like.
Down.
He's like Oscar De La Hoya. He's like those guys. Just fought everybody, and you just respect a guy for that.
One of the few guys that really wobbled Floyd Mayweather.
Came the closest.
Absolutely.
He came close. Taking that.
But this is a situation where we maybe kind of don't look at the losses as much. He's got double-digit losses, but that came later in his career.
End of his career.
But look who they came against
he
as well, too.
Everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. And we're not going to mention that he looks like Lil Kim now. Antonio Tarver, one of those guys, never really did it for me. From 97 to 2015, 31-6-1, 1 no contest, 22 knockouts. Lots of course, light heavyweight championships, stuff like that. Antonio Tarver, again, not a guy that really did a whole lot for me, but it's not based on feelings. It's based on what he actually did.
Some of it is feelings. Some of it is,
If you're voting,
I
I
ain't
think
physically
it should be
feeling you, but I got to feel you here.
Yeah.
But
What do you think, TC? Looking at a guy like Antonio,
I agree with you. For me, he doesn't do it for me too. Again, styles. It goes same thing for Sergio Martinez. Just like, and even more so with Antonio Tarver. He was a guy that he was a big time counter puncher. And I just didn't get it for me. And again, I just think, not the longevity enough. I mean, 31 victories, okay, 6 losses. No, I'm not. I'm not ready for Antonio Tarver now. I'm not ready for Antonio Tarver, down the road. We're talking about Mason Dixon here. He turned into an actor here, right?
Yeah,
Right.
No shame in that, man. But when I think Hall of Fame, I think guys who have changed the sport somehow were better because of it, and Antonio Tarver never really stood out to me amongst that stacked division that happened all during his time, in the ring and everything. It's just a guy who never really moved it. And of course, Israel Vasquez from 95 to 2010, 44-5 with 32 knockouts. A lot of knockouts for Mr. Vasquez. 3-time super bantamweight world champion. But a guy who not totally well known in the U.S. again. Another kind of Mexican champion that was stashed away.
Well, he's a bantamweight, so that's a problem too. With the bantamweights, they don't get hardly any TV time whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah,
fought most of his fights in Mexico. Had some great battles
Crazy
against
athletic.
Rafael Marquez. But great fighter. Eventually, he's going to get in.
Yeah.
Eventually, no doubt. And again, especially with people outside of the United States, he'll get a lot of votes. But and again, he's far enough removed to what he retired in 2010. So
he's got a body of work that can be examined.
Exactly. Yeah. Very strong fighter. Very strong.
Time heals all wounds. That's what I'm going to say. Time heals it all, man. So TC Martin, thank you so much. Spending some time with us, letting us kind of pick your brain about.
Man, it's great with you guys too.
You're a busy dude. Tell the people where they can find you throughout the week.
You're on everything. You got like 84 shows all over the world. You're in Sacramento. You're here. You're running Hall of Fames. Tell the folks where they can find you.
Well, you can locally in Las Vegas. You can catch me 2 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday. It's streamed live at tcmartinshow.com. Can listen live on the website locally here in Las Vegas, KSHAP 1400. But yeah, tcmartinshow.com. That's where you can find me. And again, Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame. Something very proud of that we do there. Diego Corrales, you boxing fans, you can go on the website and vote. It's open to the public. And
how much does the public vote weigh in on how you guys do it?
100%. We take
100%.
It's the top 5 vote getters. And we open it up to the public, and we usually receive anywhere between 15 and 20,000 votes during a 30-day voting period, and that voting period is taking place now. So check out the website. Yeah, I invite you to go check it out. Jeremy, you guys go vote, check it out. And you'll see the who's been the past inductees and who are the current nominees. We have 41 nominees, and SacSportsHOF.com for that. So pleasure with you guys. You guys are a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you. This was the highlight of the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Our
producer ran away.
Yeah,
so you know what? I thought we were going to wrap it up, but no, we're going to keep on talking here for a few minutes.
He went to go get us some chocolate milkshakes, I think.
Something.
With Juan, Manuel, Marquez.
I didn't say lemon lime. Come on, man.
Come on, man. Kind of looking at maybe looking ahead at the next batch of female fighters coming up on the next ballots, maybe 2020 and 21 and 22. The names like local favorite like Anna Hulaton, people like that popping up. What do you look, or how do you see someone like that, Anna's chances for Hall of Fame induction and what she did and what she meant to the Philippines and the people over there and everything? Does that weigh into, or should it weigh into voters' mindsets and how they view champions? Or Hall of Fame inductees.
Yeah, they do. But again, I think with so much of this, when you're talking about Hall of Fame voting, especially when you're talking about something, a new category like women, so much of it is marketability, and it's what they're doing outside of the ring. And let's face it, that's why we're talking about Laila Ali. And not that she's not a great fighter. We know she's
a great fighter.
She is. But my point is, there's nothing really marketable about a lot of these other ladies that they have seen them outside of the ring, and they're going to go, oh, who are these people?
You have to be able to string together a story.
I
mean, it's not just a body of work, but you have to be able to tell the historical relevance
how you push the sport forward, things like that.
I think we should mention we got a couple of big fights coming up here next week.
We have Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz, 2
coming up in a few weeks.
Picks. Who you go? You leaning toward Deontay?
I'm going Wilder.
Yeah, well,
I'm going Wilder.
Yeah, you really definitely got to go Wilder. But Shakur Stevenson and Joette, Gonzalez are about to fight the War of the Roses.
Right.
All the Montagues and the Capulets are coming up there. Those two. That's an interesting backstory. Check out, why these kids are so mad at each other.
Fun locally. I mean, of course, we have Canelo and Sergey Kovalev, another guy who kind of once the competition stepped up, Sergey's punching power went away. Weirdly enough. Then, of course, local. If you love local fighters, seeing local guys do it, go down to Sam's Town, watch the Mayweather Promotions fight there at Sam's Town live. The up and coming fighters from around the area do their thing. Man, I love seeing the local guys do it. The young guys do it, and they always scrap it up. They're trying to prove things.
Busy.
You got it.
I love it. So.
What's up, Juan?
Oh, what? Juan's back.
Juan's back.
I guess
we're talking bad about you.
Off air now.
We're talking bad about you.
Well, TC Martin, thank you so much, man, again, for joining us. Love the insight. Follow along with this guy. He knows a lot about a lot. So there you go. Not just boxing. The guy's brilliant in every area.
Thanks, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
All right.
Cool.
And CC.
Sportsnista.
For the Sportsnista.
Right.
For Juan, for Gorilla Cross Studios, I'm Jeremy Long. We'll see you next week on Levels.
See ya.